Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legacies. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I like what this episode kind of started. We get introduced to like Alyssa's past. I'm like, oh, so is Alyssa going to become a more prominent character? Because it's like, last episode was the first time she popped up. I mean, obviously, it's that thing of like, she's technically been at the school the entire time, but obviously this is our first like real introduction to her and everything. You get what I'm trying to say. You know, breaking the fourth wall of the TV show and everything, but you know, kind of, regardless, going on tangents. But the fact of the matter is, it's interesting because I was like, oh, so is she going to be more of a main character going forward? Is that why? Because I was like, oh, we're kind of going to her backstory. I'm like, what's that going to reveal into? Well, we kind of see that Alyssa is the way that she is because it seems like we don't really get the full scope of Alyssa's background. All we see is that the house exploded. So it's like, oh, so even since she was young, she was a very powerful witch. What that was all about, we don't know. But the fact of the matter is, obviously, she's very like, I think it seems like it's an aspect of Alyssa. She kind of gets her way. If she doesn't get her way, she kind of like loses her temper, which is so interesting because I'm like, it seems like she's actually maybe worse than Lizzie. Like Lizzie has her issues, but it seems like Alyssa's actually way worse when you actually break that down, because obviously she doesn't like being made fun of, and like Lizzie and Josie and all those girls in that circle were making fun of her. She wanted the bows that they had, but they're like, oh, our mom gave us those, so we can't. So it's like, what she do? She turned her skin purple, which is interesting because later on she talks about like purple being her favorite color. So I was like, oh, I guess that kind of made sense. But kind of diving into that all at the same time. There's that new creature that got released last episode by the Necromancer, but it turns out no one else can see it. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's this thing known as a Kreen, and then we see it kind of attack Alyssa. But I was like, okay, but it seems like Alyssa's just mean and stuff. I was thinking like, oh man, she's gonna get possessed or something, and I thought that's what that was gonna be, but not to the extent. Basically, it whispers in your ears, and it basically gets stronger off of strife, because basically it exists in a different plane of existence. So no one can see it, and so the more strife it causes, the more it feeds off of it until it eventually can physically become like basically adjust its frequency so that it's on this plane of existence. It's kind of the whole thing. At the same time, there's a whole thing with Wade being like, yo, like the reason why I'm not very good at magic and stuff like that is because I believe I'm a fairy. I don't really know too much about my parents and stuff like that. I'm like, is Wade going to be a mistake? Because I was thinking like, because Wade is thinking that, my mind is immediately like, oh, he probably is definitely something supernatural, but it's probably, because he said I'm not good at magic. I was like, it's probably going to be a thing of you're not a fairy, you might be something else. That's what I was thinking, but regardless. But the fact is, you know, Alyssa getting mean, but then it seems like it spreads to Hope. So this Hope, the Korean kind of acts as kind of an illness. It goes from person to person, but immediately Wade was able to, does anyone else see it? Because he's able to see it when no one else can. But like I said, because basically this thing kind of whispers, it kind of plays on your insecurities, and you come off a little mean. So obviously it started with Alyssa, but then it went to Hope, and then like Hope kind of chastises Landon a little bit, calling him useless, because they actually did some sparring and kind of got his butt handed to him. But it's the situation of, she's trying to prepare him because he wants to train so he could be more useful. Because obviously it's like, yeah, being a phoenix is cool and everything, but beyond the whole like, well, just getting killed and being able to come back, like what else can you do? It's actually kind of interesting because it's very reminiscent of, I haven't made this comparison, but Nathan from Misfits, because it's actually kind of a spoiler because it's a big reveal when you find out what Nathan's power is. But since we're in the conversation, whatever the case may be, it's kind of interesting, like having being able to come back from the dead. Not the most power you can really do except for like sacrificing yourself like that. But like I said, I think as a phoenix, I would assume like he'd be able to kind of use like fire magic or something. I think he just doesn't know how to channel it yet. But as like phoenixes are all about fire, I mean, your body literally burns as you rise from the ashes. So I'm like, you got to be in some shape or form be able to channel that fire. Like I said, I would get the feeling that would be what Landon can do, but you probably have to wait a little bit longer before we get that. Tangents and all that. But obviously like Landon knew something was up, but Wade was like, yo, I got your back, dude. It's a Korean, and the fact of the matter is I can see it when no one else can. But the thing is, the Korean is spreading like wildfire. All those witches were gathered around because Emma's back at the school, which is like, that was kind of live. I was like, whoa, Emma, we haven't seen you at all this season. We haven't seen you since you left. There was that whole complicated like you, Rick, and Dorian situation, because even Dorian's like, oh, hey. And it's like, oh, things are awkward. It's like, oh, you didn't even tell me you were back in town. She's like, yeah, I'm only in here for like, the witch, the covenant thing or whatever, because like, so witches can like get to know all the different like ancestors of like witches, like, oh, like the different covenants and basically where all these different witches come from and stuff like that. So that's really interesting. And since we're in that conversation, it does make you wonder. I wonder will they ever go into explanation about Wade's situation. Like, I'm skipping around and stuff, but it's like with Wade, the fact of the matter is like, why is it that he's around? Well, I mean, I guess it's no different from like, well, Landon's kind of the same way. He was born from being a phoenix, but his mom wasn't around. Well, she was, because then she came back and she had him. But you get what I'm saying? It's like, more often than not, in a situation like that, I guess like his parents had hid him, and so they probably got, most likely did get Malivore because, and everything. But regardless, because of tangents and all that, but like all the witches were in a circle and just like one by one it was going around, and obviously there was a physical representation of like everything getting spiteful and heated because Emma was trying to get them all kind of like keep this ball a certain green color, but obviously it started changing colors because everyone started getting heated back and forth between people. Obviously Lizzie's there because she's trying to deal with the whole Josie situation, because in any attempts to kind of deal with that dark magic haven't worked out. They're trying to find a solution, which their solution was to kind of throw it in the prison realm. But obviously you have Rick being like, that's a bad idea, because obviously he doesn't want to take the chance they throw it in a prison realm and give Kai the opportunity to come out of it. So that's what that ends up coming down to. So obviously his side of the episode, he's trying to find another solution to all this. But like I said, we'll circle back around. But they, like I said, Kareen is making havoc. Like it's like I said, it's just everyone's getting affected by it until the point it can finally physically manifest. And it's like, yep, that monster's here. So everyone will. And it's so sad because like Lizzie, it's not too surprising from, because she can get very snippy. So it's almost a thing of like, oh, that was me, or no, I'm sorry. Like like from Hope and Lizzie, there's constant apologizing, which is kind of sad, because they're having to apologize for all the snippy things they were saying. But at the same time, it's like, sadly, it's like from Lizzie, you kind of expect it. So even if she's not saying the mean stuff, it's like kind of fits Lizzie. So when you hear it, it's not too shocking. But hearing it from Hope is actually kind of like, ugh. It's like dagger to the heart, especially for Landon. But poor Landon and Wade were getting ripped into just because it's like, oh, what you're doing is stupid. Like basically, they got chastised like crazy, and obviously ends up kind of making Wade upset, so he just ends up bouncing. But when the time comes, like Landon starts realizing like, whoa, I'm being affected too, and it's like, what's the common denominator now? I'm not around Wade anymore. So it turns out fairies need to be believed in, and the reason why Landon was okay is because he was the only one that believed in Wade. Everyone else didn't believe him about the whole like, oh, he's a fairy and everything. Everyone just made jokes about it and stuff like, but Landon wholeheartedly believed him. And so it's like, yeah, like the fact of the matter is, when he got close to Wade again, it's like it didn't affect him, because it's like, I believe in you, dude. The fact of the matter is, you're the only one that, because you were the first one to be able to see the Korean, and I believed you, and here we are. So I wasn't affected by his ability. And then everyone's chanting, Wade, Wade. I'm like, yeah, Wade, yeah, Wade. I'm kind of getting excited and pumped for Wade. And I love MG and Caleb are there being like, what is this all about? And it's like, I think it's someone's birthday, because I love that. They just gather people up. It's like, just chant Wade, let's do this. And so obviously the Korean shows up, but it's like, okay, what do we do? It's got the dark magic, and it's like, if we attack it, it might break. It's so interesting. I guess if the necromancer drains it, it's okay. Which I guess maybe would have been a better solution, because it's like, well, it wouldn't be in Josie, but it would be inside of him. But it's like, well, considering what the necromancer would do with it, that's probably not a good thing. But the moment he broke it, trying to probably absorb it, it would have went off into Josie anyway. So it's like, there was probably no winning in that regard. I don't know. Like I said, not unless the necromancer found a way or knows a way of channeling it. But obviously he doesn't know. I don't know if he knows the full circumstances of what's to come, especially because Josie's having visions, especially when she got knocked out. She had a vision of what's to come, of like, if they don't keep that dark magic from her, she's literally going to burn this school to the ground, and everyone's going to be kind of caught in the crossfire. So there's that whole situation. But obviously Wade's trying to, he's trying to do his thing, but it doesn't work. And it's like, because no one actually believes in him. But Landon's like, nah, man, I got this. He goes over and he starts hitting on the Korean. I'm like, yo, look at Landon's moves. He's dodging. He's getting some blows in. All right, didn't last that long, but hey, he was doing his best. And Wade is like, nah, well, because the moment the Korean kills him, like, Wade is like, no, like, Landon did what he was able to, like, that was proof that Landon was willing to put his own life at stake because he believed in him. And lo and behold, the butterfly wings comes out. I'm like, yo. Well, not butterfly wings, fairy wings. I'm like, yeah. It kind of, like, they kind of, like, just the whole aesthetic too, it just kind of reminds me of Choji from Naruto. So I was like, yeah, because it was like almost, it was like a Choji moment. I was like, yeah, Wei, and Wei just up there like, yeah, Wei, and it's cool too because he's finally figured out what he is. So because it's interesting because he's literally one of the few like Triforce supernaturals is what I'm trying to say, because he fits in that other category like Hope, Landon, and now him. Like, there's no other, like, I mean, to be fair, they're a complicated situation. They could technically fall in that category as Hope and Lizzie. Not Hope and, but Lizzie and Josie, because of the whole, like, because of the way their powers work. They're, like, a mutation to, like, witches, so they kind of fit in that other category, but obviously they still kick it more along the lines of witches. But I love that, Wei kind of flaps his wings and the fairy like dust or energy comes off of it and he kills the Korean. I'm like, yeah! It's actually kind of interesting when you think about it because like the last show that at least that I can remember, maybe there's been other shows that's popped up that's had this, but the thing that comes to my mind first is True Blood, because if you're unaware, like, it's kind of spoilerish, but fairies become a thing. And it's interesting because Sebastian bit Wei. He drank from Wei, didn't kill him obviously, but it makes you wonder, like, did he get any satisfaction? Because that comes up in True Blood, like, oh, someone's blood, getting drained. I'm trying not to get specific because of spoilers, like, in case you've ever, like, decided, like, oh, I'm going to watch True Blood. I'm not trying to spoil things for you, but it's like, like, a fairy having their blood being drained by a vampire is very True Blood, because that was a thing. So I'm like, I guess he didn't taste any different, maybe because he didn't recognize what he was. So until you recognize what you are, you can't really fully embody it. So maybe if you drink him now, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the same thing with like Landon. Landon probably doesn't taste any different from like a human, just because he's something else supernatural, so whatever the case may be. But it's like Wade saved the day and everything's like, yeah. So that's pretty dope. I'm curious to see what Wade's going to be like going forward. Like now he knows what he is and everything. So there's that side of things. There's actually kind of the sad situation between Hope and Landon, because obviously Landon's, training some more and stuff like that. But Hope is like, all that stuff I said, actually, it wasn't just occurring, I meant it. Because for her, it's like, I like the fact is that you can't really throw or take a punch. For her, she doesn't want Landon to be the hero, because the hero tends to, like, even when it's all said and done, even when they win, the hero still won't be the one that's left standing. I mean, it's a complicated thing. I mean, look at her dad. She's seen that story too many times. Like, she looked like, because it's like, well, look what happened to her. She jumped into Malivore to try to save the day. She wasn't left standing. There's the whole situation with her dad sacrificing himself to make sure that the Hollow never got out of him, So it's just like, even then, which obviously, once again, is like saying Klaus the hero. But I mean, obviously, Klaus had his heroic moments a lot, especially as the series progressed. But you get what I'm trying to say. The fact of the matter is, it's like she doesn't want Landon to be in that position. So it's just kind of like she's not even going to train him anymore, because it's like, if I train you, all I'm going to do is you're going to be out in the front lines and you're going to get hurt. And I love you. And even though the Korean was just playing on my insecurities, that's still how I feel. And so I got to be honest about how I feel. I don't want you mixed up in this. But for him, it's like, even if you don't train me, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to find someone else who will train me. The fact of the matter is, so we both can be standing, so that leads to a complication. It's like, oh, they're kind of fighting and everything, but it's just, it's the thing of just, Hope is trying to, Hope has lost a lot, and, she wants to protect the people that she loves, so, it's out of, compassion that, she said what she said. I also like another aspect to this episode was the whole situation with Rick sitting down and talking to the sheriff. It was really interesting because it's like, right, we haven't seen them talk with each other. Maybe they have kind of kept up since he had MG wipe her mind. I think that's the last time we saw them talk. Obviously, I wonder will Alaric ever change his mind about that? Well, because obviously at the time she didn't really trust him, but maybe eventually, given enough time, now kind of everything being better, he can eventually trust her with the whole, thing. I mean, to be fair, like, because the thing is, trusting her, she could easily turn into a Matt, where Matt was kind of okay-ish with the supernatural, but once again, he got super jaded when it came to the supernatural. He was just, he has his interesting stance, which obviously, like, apparently in his continuity, now, obviously this, season, they revealed the fact that he's married with that. It's a whole thing. Because also the actor who plays Matt is currently on Dare Me, so that's probably an aspect to it. But regardless, tangents and all that. So I'm curious. If that's going to end up being something they do going forward, maybe not. But the fact is, he is talking to her and kind of confiding in her about stuff without really going into details. He's like, oh yeah, I'm writing this book. Yeah, it's like, oh, he talks about this bomb, that being like the black magic, and it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, kind of saying like how he would deal with it. And she's like, oh, like if it's a fictional story, you can basically do whatever you want to kind of write around it and stuff like that. So kind of didn't really help out in that regard. But they had an interesting conversation, obviously, about their kids. Her son kind of got in a fight, but it's most likely him standing up to a bully, which is interesting because Alyssa's kind of labeled it in that bully area of like being the bully. So you see kind of parallels there. But I love that, like, you know, it's like, obviously, Lark is like, I wish Lizzie would find someone nice like Ethan, but obviously she found people like, hey, Sebastian, which that's a whole complicated thing. But yeah, I mean, it seems like, you know, throughout the grand scheme of the episode, it does seem like Alaric and the sheriff, are, you know, definitely moving their relationship in another direction. So that's good. So there's that side of things. But another aspect to this is, like I said, the whole backstory on Alyssa, because obviously, like, things weren't really working out. In fact, things were getting worse and worse to the point, like, she had linked a notebook of Lizzie's to her and basically burned it, and Lizzie got heavily burned. I'm like, that's some almost borderline psychotic stuff. It's like, well, not every supernatural is a good person. I mean, look where Hope comes from. Her dad, he's literally one of history's worst people. I mean, technically, even though Elijah ended up forgetting a lot of it, he was kind of a ripper before even Stefan was a ripper, you know? So there's that whole complicated situation. But it was actually kind of sad when you actually kind of break it down, because, like, Alaric kept being like, the fact is, with things going like this, we're going to have to probably, like, expel her or something like that. But then, like, you know, Emma was like, we can't do that again. It's like, okay, so, like, what's that all about? The fact of the matter is, with Alaric and the whole Emma situation, a way to compensate for that is basically we take all your the bad memories that are basically making you into the person you are. We kind of take those memories away from you and see what kind of happens. And it seems like, I think it was either a slow process. I don't think it was all at once, but maybe it was a slow process to slowly take those memories away. Or maybe it was a big process, but Emma would constantly see her over and over again to make sure that everything was still intact or whatever. I'm sure it's probably the former of, like, it going slowly, you know. I'd probably have to be very delicate with the whole blocking memories and getting rid of memories and stuff like that. It was interesting because, like, Alyssa kind of seemed like she was all for it, but maybe it's just kind of like, well, you kind of forced me. It was like, either I conform and let you mess with my memories, or I get kicked out of here and I have literally nowhere else to go. So it's probably, like I said, we'll circle back to it, but it seemed like she was all for it, but maybe that's the justification for it. But regardless, kind of circling back, like, the fact of the matter is, all the witches work together, because rather than this being a situation that just Lizzie and Josie deal with on their own, all the witches come together for this to try and basically make another one of those devices so they can create a new prison world, because obviously they can't use the one where Kaya's in. So it's like, hey, let's make a new one of our own. And so when that's all said and done, all the witches work together to make the device, and then they send the dark magic through, and it's like, hey, it's victory. It's like, yeah. And then it's like, oh, it turns out Emma was actually here because Alyssa was kind of not on her best behavior. It was more so about checking up on that whole situation. It's the real reason why she was there. I guess Alyssa already kind of had a little bit of behavior issues before then, but I guess it's like even more so because the whole current situation was kind of making her situation even worse. But it's like Emma being like, oh, the fact of the matter is you weren't bad off. Like, the fact of the matter is you were fine. At the same time, there's the whole situation of, like, Alaric, Lizzie, and Josie disappearing. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, why them specifically? Well, because it turns out Alyssa's behind all of this, because apparently, and that's interesting, and I like that, she's been waiting for this opportunity. The moment this spell was enacted and made everyone remember Hope, her memories got unlocked too about what they did to her. But that's my point. You agreed to it, but maybe it's because they gave you an ultimatum like that, either get kicked out or get your memories locked away. So she got super pissed. So she wanted to get back at Alaric for what he did, but also Lizzie and Josie, because it's like all your stuff, all you ever cared about was yourself. And it's like, it's almost like you're trying to justify it by being like, because they're so caught up in themselves, like, I look out. It's like you're very self-centered in yourself. So, like, you make it, but I guess it's like, oh, like, all you do is gather people together when it's convenient for you. Like, I mean, it's more so to pay Alaric back too. Like Lizzie and Josie are more not collateral. They were on purpose. I mean, but obviously, like she's never been the biggest fan of Lizzie and Josie anyway. So it was just kind of like getting her revenge. But that's what this was all about. And I'm like, wow. And it's because it seems like Alyssa didn't even do this like because like, oh, someone else got involved. Like it's not a Malivore thing. It's not a necromancer thing. It's just like oh no, I just want to get you back. She knocks Emma out. She plans on wiping Emma's memory. She's like so happy, proud of herself, like she won. But nah, Hope found out about it. And Hope kind of is like, oh, we need to talk. So it's like that whole situation. And Alaric, Lizzie, and Josie find themselves in another realm, prison dimension. And I'm like, okay, so what's this place? And Josie, and it's like, wait, isn't it supposed to be very similar? Like, why does it look a little different? Like, yeah, but this isn't a prison world you made. I was like, oh my God. I was like, are you in here with Kai? Are you? And it's like, no. It seems like at some point, I guess Alaric had made another one at some point in time earlier on. And lo and behold, it seems like Sebastian's in here. The whole conversation between him and Emma when it comes to like kicking students out, it seems like this was their solution because it's like, well, we can't necessarily let you out there in the world if you're uncontrollable. So it's interesting because like Malivore, it's like a prison pit of its own, but it's like hard to say which one's worse, Malivore or the prison realm. I mean, the prison realm, you're likely to drive yourself insane, but the thing is like with the whole Malivore thing, you're kind of stuck in nothingness. So it's hard to say like which one's worse. They're both terrible situations, but it's like Kai's been locked up in there since a good couple, it's been a while because obviously he's been locked up since season 8, the series finale. He's been locked up in, and he was locked up there in season 8, but like obviously that was many a year ago because there's been so many damn time jumps between that and the originals and this. So there's been a lot of time, like well over a decade or whatever time has passed in that regard. So it's like, okay, so if that is the case, like who or rather what else is in that world that Alaric, like I said, like what are the students? And because if there's students that are uncontrollable and stuff like that, that means they're very bad. But obviously like Alyssa's doing this to teach him a lesson because of what he did to all the other students, what he was going to do to her as well, which, it's like now Lizzie and Josie are going to both find out about the way Alaric handles things. Because obviously it's like, the sheriff, she had mentioned like, hey, give your daughters a chance to kind of fix their own problems. And he didn't. He got it. Well, some of this is obviously the Sebastian thing. That's like, he should have let Lizzie handle that, but he didn't. He kind of took it in his own hands, and that's going to backfire because Lizzie's like, oh, I thought he left me, but it's like, no, you put him here, which is obviously a very extreme measure of parenting because it's like, I forbid you from seeing that guy. That's kind of the most normal parent route. I mean, even the sheriff had talked about that, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, her daughter had a whole bunch of people around, keg and everything, but it's like, oh, all we can do is try to do the right thing in that regard, which even, Alaric was like, yeah, I'm not the best one on parent advice. I lie to my kids. I keep secrets from them. And it's like, oh, this is a big doozy that obviously Lizzie's going to be pissed about, but also Josie is too, because the thought process is like, if you lock these other kids in here, if Josie went dark, would you have just locked her up in here too? But it's like, no, you're my daughter. It's like, oh, is it just because I'm your daughter that you wouldn't have done this? But even then, it's like, you probably thought about it. Those are probably some points that are going to get brought up. Regardless, I'm so interested to dive into this next episode to find out like where all of this is going to take us, because stuff is about to go down. So that's going to be interesting. Because obviously they still don't. Because obviously it's like, oh, the monsters might be back. It's like, well, that wasn't even Malivore doing the whole monster thing. Because obviously that's the necromancer. So like I said, there's still a lot that that wasn't that has to be dealt with on the outside world aside from just this prison world stuff too. Because it's interesting too. Because Alyssa, like I was thinking this immediately, like Alyssa messed up because she picked the 3 worst people to do that for. Like you could have made it even worse if you made it 4 people, but you pick like 3 of the 4 most important people to her at that school. That being Alaric, who is like a dad to her, and Lizzie and Josie, who are like her besties now, as well as basically her sisters, so it's like super messed up in that regard. Like I said, you would have only made it worse if you put Landon in it. Oh, that super would have made things worse. Regardless, like I said, I'm interested to see where all this takes us going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.